Trump came to Helsinki to kowtow to Putin. Biden came to stand up to him. If you want to know the differences on national security between Democrats and MAGA Republicans, it all boils down to one word: Helsinki. 5 years ago, on July 16, 2018, President Donald Trump met in the capital of Finland with Russian President Vladimir Putin. There he delivered what Senator John McCain called one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. Standing next to Putin at a news conference, Trump refused to condemn Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election or even to admit that it had occurred. This came a little more than a year after Trump had attended a NATO summit in Brussels at which he refused to affirm the alliance's Article 5 collective security guarantee. He later reluctantly endorsed Article 5 but continued to criticize the alliance relentlessly. On Thursday, President Biden visited Helsinki for a very different purpose. He came not to kowtow before Putin but to stand up to him, and not to undermine NATO but to strengthen it. This visit was meant to celebrate Finland's recent accession to membership in the alliance, and it came shortly after Biden's attendance at a NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania, where the alliance showed greater unity than at any time in recent history. Ukraine did not get a timeline for joining the alliance, but Sweden broke through the Turkish roadblock to its membership, and the Allies signaled resolve in aiding Ukraine and bringing it closer to the alliance. "I've been doing this a long time. I don't think NATO's ever been stronger," Biden said during a meeting with Finnish President Sauli Niinistö. He's right, and he deserves a world of credit for that achievement. Biden has shown more skill at marshalling an international coalition than any U.S. president since George H.W. Bush during the 1991 Gulf War. Biden has often dragged his feet on aid to Ukraine for fearing of triggering World War III, but over and over again he has done the right thing in the end, supplying everything from Stinger and Javelin missiles to M777 howitzers to HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems to Patriot air defense batteries to Bradley fighting vehicles to cluster munitions. Abrams tanks are on their way but haven't arrived yet. One hopes that Army tactical missile systems, Gray Eagle drones and F-16s will not be far behind. It's safe to say that none of that would have happened if Trump had still been in the White House. Just this week, Trump expressed opposition to Biden's decision to provide Ukraine with cluster munitions, a type of munition that the Russians have used in abundance. Trump argues that Biden is dragging us further toward World War III by sending cluster munitions to Ukraine and boasts that he could end the war in a day. To which former Vice President Mike Pence replied, "The only way you'd solve this war in a day is if you gave Vladimir Putin what he wanted." Pence's criticism of Trump is a reminder that most Republicans have not gone weak-kneed on Russia. Aid to Ukraine has passed with overwhelming bipartisan support in both chambers of Congress. But there is a large and growing faction in the GOP that is hostile to U.S. global leadership and to assistance for Ukraine. A recent Pew Research Center poll showed that 44% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents said the United States is sending too much assistance to Ukraine compared to only 14% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents. The MAGA Republicans would rather wage culture wars at home than support Ukraine's war of territorial defense against Russian aggression. Members of the House Freedom Caucus are offering amendments to the defense authorization bill making its way through Congress, demanding that the United States cut back or eliminate aid to Ukraine and even leave NATO. Meanwhile, the Marine Corps is now without a confirmed commandant for the first time in 164 years because Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican Alabama, has put a hold on hundreds of nominations for senior officers to protest a Pentagon policy enabling service members and their families to travel to states where abortion is legal to have the procedure performed. To be sure, most of the GOP wants to expand defense spending and continue aiding Ukraine. But Trump speaks for the party's resurgent neo-isolationist wing, and he is the prohibitive frontrunner for its 2024 presidential nomination. Even most of the Republicans who disagree with the former president refuse to call him out for fear of backlash from the Republican base. Trump's leading challenger, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, was once a conventional, Reagan-style conservative on defense and foreign policy, but he is trending toward Trump-style isolationism. The very real possibility that Trump could win back the presidency in 2024 fills U.S. allies with dread, and offers hope to U.S. enemies. John Bolton, who was Trump's national security advisor, has said Trump came close to pulling out of NATO in 2018 and would do so if elected to another term. It's also a good bet that Trump would try to stop the flow of U.S. weapons to Ukraine. Indeed, the very prospect that Trump could return to office encourages Putin to prolong the conflict. Dmitry Medvedev, former president of Russia and vice chairman of Putin's Security Council, said in May that Trump is a good guy but cowardly and that, historically, it has always been easier to work with Republicans. Medvedev acknowledged that, from the Kremlin's perspective, the main thing is that Biden, the guy with dementia, not win re-election. So, if you believe in making America, rather than Russia, great again, it's imperative for Biden to win in 2024 and maintain the policies that have so greatly strengthened NATO and Ukraine. As long as the MAGA wing remains as strong as it is, Republicans cannot be trusted on national security policy. Trump came to Helsinki to kowtow to Putin. Biden came to stand up to him. If you want to know the differences on national security between Democrats and MAGA Republicans, it all boils down to one word: Helsinki. 5 years ago, on July 16, 2018, President Donald Trump met in the capital of Finland with Russian President Vladimir Putin. There he delivered what Senator John McCain called how Biden learned to stop apologizing and love the economy. Something has come over President Biden and his White House. Rather than talking about the economy in their usual tone of apology and nuance lest someone think they haven't acknowledged the feelings of anyone who might be unhappy, the Bidenomics push has become positively triumphal. The common democratic impulse to make sure everyone's pain is validated has been set aside, at least for now. Instead, through Biden's speeches and a wave of media appearances by administration officials, the White House has gone on something of a victory tour. It's as though Democrats have finally realized how to frame a debate. If you want the press to tell everyone how great the economy is, you have to start by saying the economy is great. That doesn't mean all Americans will immediately be persuaded. The media's own skepticism remains, and news outlets will give Republicans ample time to continue claiming the economy is in desperate straits. But if nothing else, the idea that the economy is actually doing very well, how to judge that success, what produced it, how we might continue it, will move toward the center of the debate. Which means that debate will become very different from what it has been recently. A robust argument is underway among wonky liberals about just how good the economy is right now and whether Biden's approval on the economy deserves to be as low as it is. Meanwhile, in the financial press, the default mode seems to be to present every piece of good news with a warning not to let it brighten your day. Each month's report of job growth, and there have been an extraordinary 30 straight months of growth,